Good morning. My name is Anna Imagination, and I am here with the Healing Garden. I have been on a podcast kick this last couple days, and I just have a lot to say. I have a talking quota, and if my talking quota is low, I go onto podcasts and I meet my talking quota. So I've been actually putting off this particular video for a long time. I'm going to spend the next 5 videos breaking down each part of the cognitive core processing, what exactly each step is inside of it, and what it means. When we get into beliefs, which is next, oh, that's going to be fun. Like plan for an hour. Right now, we're going to talk about ethics. This is the first stage of the cognitive core processing. So, I talk a lot on the cognitive core. It's part of my Triadic healing program that I invented. So, I think I kind of want to do an introduction video to this. So, I'm going to do that because this is going to be, it's big. And yeah, if I'm going to get into this, you really need to understand exactly how it works. So, I'm going to talk about this. This is going to be the introduction video. And then the next one, we're going to talk about ethics. I don't know yet. I'm winging this. I'll figure it out. I don't like planning. So here's the deal. You have all these levels in your subconscious mind. And in the middle of your identity, your id has a cognitive core. This is where all of your new beliefs are processed. This is where you basically retain your mental health. This is where mental illness and emotions and pain and all of the functioning of your subconscious comes from the cognitive core. In nerd talk, it's the warp drive. Okay. So you basically have your id, and your id, your identity, is built up with 3 parts to it: your emotions, I'm sorry, your voice, your name, and your cognitive core. Those are the 3 parts of your identity. We're going to talk about the name and the voice later. Right now, we're going to talk about the cognitive core. Inside the cognitive core, there are 5 elements. Your 5 elements inside the cognitive core are thus: the first one is your ethics, the second one is your beliefs, the third one is your actions, the last is your voice, similar to the voice of the 3 identities, or of the 3 parts of the identity. And when these 4 elements are combined, they form your perspective, okay? Which is the 5th element. Today, we're going to talk about the ethics. We're going to go over exactly what I mean by ethics and how that affects your cognitive core processing. So, the way it works is you go about life and you're given new data and new information. And that information is registered constantly into your belief system. Your cognitive core has a process of, oh, you've received a new belief, compare it to the ethics, and then it processes it through. You use your actions and your voice to work together to support and enforce and protect your ethics and your beliefs. And when all these things work together, you are able to form a healthy, whole perspective, or your truth, your perception of reality. Reality is an opinion. Lots of philosophy in my background. Believe me, truth is an opinion. Reality is an opinion, because reality and truth are 100% based off of your 5, 6 senses that are 100% subjective, because they vary from person to person. No one sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of touch, 6th sense is identical to another. Not possible. You can lose your eyesight, I can lose my hearing. That's going to completely skew our ability to perceive what is real. Reality and truth are an opinion, not fact. We can have scientists sit there and measure, but those tools and instruments of measurement are only calibrated to this perceived environment, not other environments, not from other galaxies, not from other physics. Now you're looking at, and the equipment can always go wrong. We are talking about subjective, abstract perspective. This makes reality and truth 100% subjective, which means it's an opinion. So, what we're really arguing about all day long, on every single topic is whose opinion is right, whose perspective is right. That's really what we're all fighting about. Now, you've got your 5 pieces, your 5 elements of the cognitive core. Ethics. So, what do I mean when I say ethics? Most people, when I say ethics, they think about religion. They pull from religion and they talk about what is right and what is wrong. Ethics is a branch of philosophy. This is specifically ethics and morality, the study of ethics and morality, what is right and what is wrong. Since we are 2 years old and infancy, we are disciplined, structured, punished based off of what is right and what is wrong. And that concept of right and wrong, not who's correct and who's incorrect, it's who is right, as in mm, who is morally or ethically right and who is morally or ethically wrong, good and bad. That is what we are talking about here. Not correct or incorrect, good and bad. What is evil and what is kind? That is what we're talking about. So, when you sit down and you decide what your ethics are going to be, it is usually based off of a system of what kind of a person you want to be. Most of us want to be nice people. Now, nice is not the same as good. Nice is different than good. Thank you, Sondheim. In addition to that, there is one of my favorite books in the world. Dr. Aziz Gazipura wrote a whole book called Not Nice, where the whole book, and I mean it's a thick book, he explains, and it's one of my highly recommended books, like read Not Nice, because it's really going to warp your beautiful perspective around to where it needs to be. The first thing he says to you in this book is nice is different than good. Thank you, Sondheim. And it's very much this concept of what we define as good, as in kind or being a good person, being versus being a bad person, is not the same as being nice. Now, I don't know about you, but my mother was huge on that's not nice. Don't do that. It's not nice. Oh, you're such a nice girl. Nice means obedient and subservient and pretty much being a slave. Literally, if you don't do X, you're going to be punished. If you don't serve people until there's nothing left of you, then you're a bad person. So this is ingrained into us when we're children. Be obedient, be silent, be submissive. Sounds like a slave. That being said, that's nice. We're not doing nice. We're going to be good. We are looking at good and bad. Being a good person, being a bad person. Hey, that's freaking evil versus, wow, you are a good person. So, what makes a person good and what makes them bad? This is philosophy. This is the study of ethics. What makes them bad? So, I love to pull off of the 10 Commandments here because they're old and it's easy. Why not? So, the first one, thou shalt not kill. In fact, when I did my ethics, this is where I went. So I recommend the book Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey breaks down ethics in the middle of the book. He has a whole chapter where he steps back and he says, "Hey, you need to really base your life," and this is why I recommend this book. This is it, the chapter. You really need to base your life off of your ethics and not this or your relationship or your job. Because when you base your life off of something you can lose, you will fall into turmoil. But if you base your life off of your ethics, then you have a constant foundation that never, ever alters. That is the gist of 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. That is why I say you really need to read this book. I could also say you really need to study philosophy and just look at the section where they talk about ethics and morality. But why do that when Stephen Covey breaks it down really nicely in a worksheet section of the book where he says, this is how to figure out what your ethics are. So, an ethic is how violent are you? What's your opinion on violence? How do you feel about violence? Let's talk about violence. My ethics, I am anti gun. I don't like them. I don't like looking at them. I don't like being around them. They're violent. They are a creation, a machine invented just for violence. I don't like it. Now, I love swords. And swords to me, I see art when I see swords. I see the beauty of the mantra and the flow of the sword. I have no idea why I'm okay with swords and why I have a problem with guns. I don't know why. I do not know why. I think it's because there is no beauty or grace with a gun. For me, it's just, but this is personal. This is really dirty personal. Like, we're going to get in here. We're going to like put on the gloves that go all the way up to here. And we're going to dig deep into ethics. So for me, I'm a pacifist. I am like all the way over here pacifist. I mean, there's a bug in my house, and that bug really needs to get his ass outside. So I'm going to very carefully and gently pick up the bug and put it outside because respect for life, respect for all. I'm having a discussion with myself right now. What if it's a cockroach, Jana? What if it's a cockroach? You live in New York City. There's cockroaches. Are you going to kill it? Do I kill the cockroach? I don't know. Yes. Yes, but I'm going to feel bad about it. So there's my level. There's my level. I am not a Buddhist. That's it. I will call the exterminator. If I see more than one cockroach in my apartment within a 24-hour period, exterminator's getting called. Oh, nope, that's it for me. No, I will not sleep with cockroaches. So I do have, there you go. There you go. There's my violence. I believe that shouting is violent. Shouting, raising your voice is violence. So I'm loud, I project, I'm very energetic. And I just recently unblocked my throat chakra. So I'm like, bleh, I speak a lot. That all being said, when you do shout, it's violence. Swearing is violence. So, where do I stand on the subject of violence is I toe the line. I really struggle. And every time I scream or raise my voice, my cognitive core goes off and says, "What are you doing? You're violating our ethics." And now I feel bad. I feel guilty. I apologize. I go, "Shit, I violated my ethics." This is a really good conversation to have. This is a really good conversation because when you have these ethics and then you're abusive to a partner or a spouse, you need to step back and re-examine your ethics. Because if you're violating your own ethics, there's something happening. Like, that's a red flag that there's something up. So, and of course, under no circumstances should you ever take the life of a human being or no, no, if someone threatens my daughter and I have to choose, I would kill somebody else if it meant I had to do so to protect my daughter or my son. That being said, I'm not going to be okay afterwards. I'm going to be really messed up in the head. That's going to be a whole, I'm shutting down my world and I've got to go into a mental hospital and figure that shit out. And I'm not going to be okay. And I'm going to have a long journey of forgiving myself because I'm going to have a problem with that. So, could I do it? Yes. Would I do it? Yes. For self defense under extenuating circumstances, if I were forced to and if I had no other choice, yes. And I would not be okay with myself afterwards. There would be a significant consequence because I would have damaged my system. My cognitive core would develop a mental illness as a result. So, yeah, I don't believe you should kill somebody. So that's solid ethic, violence, where I stand on violence. I also grew up with a lot of animal abuse. This is a really great one for me because I grew up with so much animal abuse that by the time I was 4, I was a diehard, and I still am, animal rights activist. I am huge on you respect animals to the point where I'm a vegetarian because I see them equal to me and I can't put flesh in my mouth. And I was forced to eat meat for 34 years. And that caused so many physical and mental health issues because I had my ethic of do no harm. Animals have rights. Don't eat animals. Animals are equal to you. Eating an animal is like being a cannibal. And yes, in my brain, with my ethics, because I was treated like a dog, because I was treated like an animal, because I was caged up and chained like an animal, and the animals and I had the same level of rights, they're my equal. So eating an animal is no different than eating a person in my brain because I was forced to live with them as an equal for 40 years. And like there's so many psychological layers. So many psychological layers to this. My second husband whistled at me like a dog instead of using my name. So to this day, when I hear a dog whistle or somebody whistle, I answer to it. One day I'm going to figure out how to uncondition that bullshit out of my head. But it's horrible. When you're treated like an animal, you look at them differently. So by the time I was 8, I was a diehard, well, 4, I developed this. And by the time I was 8, I was like very vocally saying it's not right to eat animals. I lived in central New York in one of the largest hunting regions of the state. My grandfather owned the largest gun shop in central New York, where he sold and bought guns to hunters while they killed animals and then brought them to the gun shop and boasted about their kills. So at 8 years old, I opened my big fat mouth and said, I think it's ethically wrong what you guys are doing. And one of the guys pointed a gun at me. They all turned at me. Every man in in my family screamed at me for like an hour. And I was 8 years old, having over 10 men, grown adults, screaming at me. And then one of them pointed a gun. This is when I split personalities the first time. This is why. It was so traumatic that my personality split. And the first personality that split was the vegetarian in me. And it suppressed it. My subconscious mind suppressed my vegetarian side literally into the fourth level of my subconscious mind, which is how I know so much about the subconscious mind, is because I lived there. So she was on the fourth level of this. I was on the fourth level of the subconscious mind, suppressed, but I was still a vegetarian. And this part of me that was pulled out and suppressed was still a vegetarian. I woke up the next morning with no memory prior to 8 years old. Zero memory. Okay, I had one memory, New York City. But I had, other than that, no memory. And I had forgotten that I was a vegetarian. So I would continue to eat. And I had my whole system 3 times a day, every day for 34 years. My body would scream in protest every time I ate food because that part of my brain, the part of my personality, the vegetarian that was taken out of my identity, that was suppressed, was trying to communicate to me, hey, it's against your ethics to eat meat. Interesting how this works. So every time I sat down to eat, I couldn't eat. I hated food. I developed a severe hatred for food because I didn't know why. But every time I sat down to eat, I had severe stomach pain, joint pain. My whole body ached. And I ended up battling throwing up. I never did throw up, but boy, did the nausea hit severely. It got to a point when I started to do my healing and all of my memories started to surface, that the day before I finally was able to remember that incident at 8 years old. And it was extraordinary. The extra extent that the the subconsciousness will go through to protect you, and how solid the ethics are. So that no matter what happens to your system, the ethics don't change. The ethics never changed. So for me, I'm a vegetarian because I have to be, because it's against my ethics. I don't care what you do. I'm not comfortable being around meat because I have this ethic. Hey, those are my people. Dogs, cats are my people. Horses are my people. Like, what are you doing? You don't eat those. Those are people in my brain. So I can't be around it. That being said, that's part of my ethic. That's part of who I am. That's not gonna change. It hasn't changed since I was 4 years old. It's a core ethic. Like, that is solid. So it's where you stand on ethics. It's where you stand on violence. It's where you stand on politics. Politics is 100% ethics. That's all it is. We're all arguing over what's ethically right. Should we be concerned about the planet? Yes, in my opinion. How important is the planet? How important is preserving Mother Nature? Highly important, in my opinion. Is people's rights? How important are people's rights? And there's people who feel no, a person's rights trumps everything else. And then there's people who feel that a person's rights do not take priority over what's morally right for the company or what's morally right for the government or the country. There's people who prioritize country rights over people rights. Now, I am people rights. I am 100% people rights. I am all about people rights. I do not prioritize society. I do not prioritize the government. I do not prioritize anything except the individual and the people. So my ethics are here, plugged in very highly to the rights of a person. That makes me huge on, yeah, gay marriage is right. Yeah, abortion is absolutely, I'm on board with it. Yeah, a woman is not a breeding machine. Take it from somebody who is forced to breed. I get it. Like, so this is where I stand on my ethics. And what we argue a lot about is whose ethics are right. That's why we talk about politics. Oh, well, you're supportive of Trump. That means that you align with his ethics. I don't align with that fucker. Not at all. That man is a misogynistic, racist, homophobic woman hater. I fucking hate that piece of shit garbage. So, yeah, if you're a Trump supporter, you're probably not going to be here. Like, it's that simple. I just, you really shouldn't be here. I mean, you can be. You're more than welcome to be. Live and let live. But if you're a Trump supporter, you probably prioritize politics more than a person's right. So you're probably not going to be here. So works for me. That being said, this is ethics. This is the study of ethics. So when you're given a belief, the belief comes in, and the first thing you're going to do is access your plethora of ethics. Now, I believe that animals have rights. I believe that women are not second class citizens, that we have fucking rights. So when you come in to a situation or a person's environment and you give them a belief of X, if it contradicts your ethics, for instance, I came up to my son's graduation was yesterday. I came upstate. My stepfather looked at me and went, "Oh my God, you need to eat." So he went out and bought a pepperoni pizza and chicken wings, brought them into my home, and then proceeded to tell me I needed to eat them. Now, him saying, "You need to eat the chicken," is a belief. He gave me this belief. Now, my system took the information and I immediately went ethics going boom. Last time you ate meat, Anna, was over a year ago when you finally remembered that you're a vegetarian because animals are your equal. You can't sit there and whistle at me like a dog and treat me like a cat and a dog and an animal and then expect me to turn around and eat those things when I'm one of them. You can't have it both ways. You can't. So I am equal to animals because that's where I was raised. So no, no, I cannot eat an animal. But I have this asshole sitting there telling me, you need to eat this animal. What are you doing? You don't eat birds. You never eat birds. What are you doing? You, so no. And that's where like he gave me that and I felt horribly disrespected. That's where I rejected his belief. And I was able, because I finally have a solid identity, I was able to go, no, I'm a vegetarian, right? And then he proceeded to mock me. He's a narcissist and that's gaslighting and that's a whole nother topic. But that is like understanding what your ethics are, what you define as what is right and what is wrong, what is ethically right to your core, to your truth, and what is wrong. And those ethics, they don't change. They're solid. They are so freaking solid. They are absolutely unaltering. They just, you don't move them. You don't move them at all. So I feel like I need to talk about abortion because I threw that out there and then I left it. So I was forced to have an abortion when I was 18. One of my owners, yeah, one of my owners got me pregnant and then forced me to have an abortion. And then my last husband forced me into IVF and put me through 3 IVFs and what's the other thing? And surgery to try and get me pregnant. So I have had no control over my body since I was 18 to 40, while other men told me what children I was and was not going to have, what children I needed to produce and breed for, and what children I wasn't going to breed for. So I have been on the receiving end of not being allowed to control any part of my body and my rights to breed or not breed. And in fact, my second husband said to me after $60,000 of trying to get me pregnant, "Yeah, you can't breed, you're too old. I have to go find a mother for my children." And that's how my marriage ended, is he threw me out because I couldn't breed. So, slave, like I said, female domesticated slave. So, for me, abortion on both sides of it, it's about freedom. It's absolutely about me being allowed to control my body because I haven't. So, and I did not speak at all on the topic of abortion for a very long time because I had so much shame and guilt by being forced to have an abortion that I didn't want to have when I was 18. So for me, it's not about, for me, it's very much about, I know the trauma and the mental illness that develops when a person is forced to do something with their body that they don't want to do. So yeah, I'm huge on, absolutely. I am absolutely for abortion. I don't care if you have a problem with that. Um, so and that's just it, is it comes down to respecting another person's opinion, respecting another person's experience, respecting another person's ethics. Whatever your choice is, whatever your opinion is, whatever. But keep it off of me. And that's really the difference, is you've got people, ethics, who practice and who have this, well, this is my belief and I prioritize my ethics. Narcissism. I prioritize my ethics over your rights. And then you have the, I prioritize your rights over my ethics. That's respect. That's respect right there. I'm going to say this again because this is the spectrum of respect. It's, what do you prioritize? Your rights, or, yeah, your freedom and your rights, or do you prioritize your opinions and your beliefs to the point where you feel that they need to be enforced on other people? I prioritize everybody's rights more than, I prioritize your freedom more than my opinion. That's it. I prioritize your freedom and my freedom more than our opinions. Trump prioritizes his opinion over other people's freedom. That's the perspective. That is, that's respect. That's the difference. And narcissists are notorious, highly renowned for saying my priority and my opinion is more important than your freedom. It's literally, I need to like do a whole diagram on this because this is it. It's freedom. It's a person's freedom versus a person's opinion. And it's which one is the priority. So when you get into ethics, this is what we're talking about. This is really where it gets nitty gritty. And the question you really need to be asking yourself when you get into an argument with another person is this person a narcissist? Is this person prioritizing their opinion more than my freedom? Don't talk to that person. Do not try negotiating. You've already lost because there is no win when somebody thinks like that. There is no win when a person thinks like that. So, this is ethics. This is the stuff where you pull your own feelings and your own opinion together and you decide what is right for you and what is wrong for you. What is good for you and what is bad for you. A lot of people forget the for you part, and that's really the important part. It's not that it's good or bad, it's that it's good for you or it's bad for you. It's not that it's right or wrong, it's just not right for you, or it's not wrong, or it's wrong for you. You forget about the for you part. It's really important that you remember that part because this is ethics. And at the end of the day, the really big question is, which do you prioritize? Do you prioritize yours and everybody else's freedom or your opinion? Which is more important? That's the question we all need to be dissecting. That's the one we all need to be really sitting down and deciding, where do I fall on the spectrum? And here's the catch. If you prioritize your opinion over freedom, that gives me the right, and everybody else the right, to prioritize their opinion above your freedom. Now, take it from somebody who knows freedom is priceless, because I've been a slave, because I have had every right taken away from me. And yeah, every right, every right. So, yeah, huh, yeah, yeah, freedom, literally like written on my arm right now. And I have it tattooed on my arm. My tattoo says, as wild and as free as the wind in the rhapsody. Freedom. That is how, like, freedom of all the things I have, it's up there because I've been a slave. I know what it feels like to live without freedom. Freedom of my body, freedom of my choices, freedom of my opinions, freedom of what goes in my mouth, when it goes in my mouth, how it goes in my mouth, how it stays. Yeah, I have a lot of anger still. I have a lot of anger still. I just got my voice back. So, yeah, I have a lot of shadow work still to do on that. But yeah, freedom is a big deal. Freedom is a big deal for me because I've lived without it. Because I have lived without it. I don't think a narcissist has lived a day. No, I do believe that. Narcissists are born in slavery. They're the people who realize the only way out of being a slave is by becoming a slave master. That's narcissism in a nutshell. They are the slaves who are raised as slaves who decide the only way to not be a slave anymore is to become the slave master. That's narcissism in a nutshell. I am like going over ethics and saying, is there anything else I missed? And I think that's really it. Once you understand what ethics is and understanding that balance and the priority, it really puts it in perspective where you stand on stuff. Beliefs is next. Beliefs is going to be fun. I love going over beliefs. Beliefs is, oh, yeah. Like I'm at 32 minutes right now with ethics. Beliefs is going to be a full hour. Be prepared for that one. But that's the big one. That is the big one. So, with ethics and belief, this is the other part, and I'm going to talk about this in the belief video also. There's actually two parts to this. So, I said that there's five. You got your perspective over here. You have your actions and your voice. These are actually enforcers. These two things protect and preserve the whole cognitive core. That is their purpose. The ethics and the belief are actually the core, the heart of this whole process. It starts with your ethics, and then your beliefs come in, and your beliefs have to be compared to your ethics. And that's your stable, that's your foundation. Your foundation is based off of your ethics and your beliefs. Absolutely crucial to the processing. These two things, your actions and your voice, are just reinforcers to protect your ethics and your beliefs. For instance, when my stepfather came in with pizza and the chicken wings, and he put down the meat, and he says to me, "You need to eat this." I used my voice and said, "I'm a vegetarian," because I had to reinforce and protect my ethics. And then he proceeded to tell me everything he hated about my life choices. I have a real problem when people tell me what they think I'm doing wrong with my life, especially when those same people turned a blind eye to all of my abuse. So he says this to me, and I used my voice. I could feel the damage happening. I could feel his beliefs coming into my system, and I could feel the pain, and I knew exactly what was going on. This is the cognitive core working. And I went, "Anna, your ethics are standing up for yourself. That's my ethic. Defend the unit, defend the system." I spoke up and said, laid down a boundary. I laid down a boundary. And the boundary was, I don't need to hear what you think of my life choices. I don't want to hear it. I have spent my whole life listening to what other people think about my life choices. Mind your damn fucking business. He ignored me and proceeded to go on anyway about how much he hates New York City and how bad New York City is for me. Talking bad about New York City is like trash talking my daughter. I'm going to be very blunt about that. That's my ethics. That's something I love. Oh, look at that. We're back to love. Love is actually part of ethics. Love is ethics. Love is ethics. It is ethical for me to love my coffee. That being said, it is my ethics now to defend my identity and myself. When I healed, this is important. When I healed, I reached a certain point with my healing where I began to prioritize what I needed to do to take care of myself. Your ethics are your priorities. Your ethics are your priorities. Sit with that. This video is just me giving you a lot of beliefs. Now you can take them and you can insert them into your cognitive core and you can process it. And you are feeling your perspective shift as I talk to you. When I say things like your ethics are your priorities, you just got a belief in. And it probably felt really good. It probably just warmed you and you went, oh, and that is the feeling of a healthy belief being inserted into your system so that it makes logical sense. And you are rewarded with a warmth feeling of understanding so that your perspective can now shift accordingly to reflect the new belief. And now you have a new perspective. This is how you heal. This is how you do shadow walking. This is how you do it all. This is it right here. This is the beauty of the Warshak print perspective. Knowledge and awareness goes into that cognitive core, goes into the belief system. Prioritizes. You have your priorities. Your beliefs get compared to your priorities. What are your priorities? Do you know what your priorities are? What's important to you? These are questions you really need to answer. Because if you don't know what your priorities are, not your mom's priorities, not your church's priorities, not your religion's or your culture's priorities, yours. Because that's what matters. And here's the thing, this is really hard because when you decide what your priorities are going to be based off of you, you have a little voice in your head, possibly, most likely, going, is mommy and daddy going to approve of that decision? That's the neighbor kid and that third party opinion that comes in from another source. Has no business in your system. This is not about your mom or your dad or your partner's approval. This is about you. And by the way, that comes from a toxic belief. We're going to talk about that next. This is about you understanding what your priorities are and what's important to you. The best way to tap into what's important to you and your ethics is going back to when you were 5 years old. What was important to you when you were 5? Me, education, art, culture. That's what's important to me. It's why I'm in New York City. It's because I wanted art and I wanted culture. This is really, really easy. And I love food. I love food now. Now that I know I'm a vegetarian and I don't have to eat my people, I love food now. Amazing how that works. So for me, my priorities are education, art, and culture. So yeah, New York City is a huge I'm in love with New York because the whole damn city is an island dedicated to art and culture and music and dancing. That's why you can't walk down the subway without having 18 orchestras escort you down to the subway. And then you get to the subway and you've got 18 dancers and more musicians sitting there playing music at you as you make each and every stop. They take a little excessive sometimes. But yeah, that's what's important to me because I prioritize art and culture. My family doesn't, which is why they hate New York because they look at it and go, why? Because of art and culture, you ignorant swine. That's why. Because I value art and culture. But I know this about myself. My whole identity is defined around this priority. It was important to me that my children know this. It's important to me that my children also valued or at least understood and knew about art and culture. Now, they don't have to love it like I, they don't have to prioritize it. I respect them because I value freedom over my opinion. So my children have been given more freedom with loving structure and less about this is my opinion and this is what you need rammed down your throat. I had not married a grandiose narcissist. So it's 40 minutes now. I'm going to leave you with this. I've said a lot. Like of all my videos, I think this is the one where I'm going, watch this one. Like of all my videos, these cognitive core ones where I really dive into what each and every one of these elements are of the cognitive core. These are the ones that matter. So up next, we are going to dissect beliefs and I'm going to dive into beliefs. And apparently I'm not doing an introduction video. I'd rather take 5 minutes of each video and break down, this is the cognitive core, this is how it works. And if you haven't figured this out by now, where have you been? Or you just got to the healing garden, so let me catch you up. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. All of my information and links are down below. I offer shadow classes, shadow walking, and basically I teach people how to master the darkness so that when dark days do happen, and they always will happen, you have to know how to navigate. Well, you don't have to. You can wing it like you've been doing it. But I know how to shadow walk. I know how to walk into a bad day, tackle that bitch and make it my own, and then walk back into the sunlight and go, look at me, look what I got in the darkness. So if you want to learn that skill, I have several master classes, I do consultations, and I also offer a lot of course material, smaller packages that zero in on the skills you require to do proper shadow walking and conquering of the darkness, because that's what I do. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. All of my links are below. And may the kindness of words always find you.